Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. The Iowa Hawkeyes defeat the Penn State Nittany Lions. This game went down to the wire, 25-24. And right off the bat, guys, just my initial thoughts. It's really a mixed bag. It really is. I said before the game in my game preview, yet again, spot on, even though there's people who want to, point out silly, unimportant things. Um, in the comment section that has nothing to do with the game prediction or anything like that. Really pretty marginal. I said that when a coach gets fired, it's either going to be a situation where the team fights for that person in whatever remains, and the interim coach is able to get them really fired up for that immediate game after the termination, or they're just done and they quit and that's it. And I think we saw the former. They were fired up for this game. It was a night game, and they were fighting for James Franklin. Now the funny thing is, it's like, if you win the game after you lose James Franklin, it's like you're kind of in a way giving credence to the fact that maybe it was the best time to move off of him. But on top of that, I said that Penn State has a lot of talent, even with their starting quarterback out, even if the head coach would be out. The talent is there. This is one of the more talented rosters in the entire country, and Iowa was going to have to face it. Uh, the bottom line is, even though I'm happy that Iowa won this game and they're 5-2, and I will get to the positives of the victory. Iowa should have won this game comfortably. Okay, there should have been no ifs, ands, buts. Everything was in Iowa's favor. The starting quarterback was out. The head coach had gotten fired. Everything was done for Penn State. Whereas Iowa, there was a lot more to play for, and Iowa was much more to their full strength, their full capacity than what Penn State had coming into this game. Um, and I also said that, me watching Iowa football as long as I have done, I know that in games like this, Kirk Ferentz tends to give way too much credence and respect to the big boys, the Penn States, the Michigans, the Ohio States, and like really just play not to lose and play this uber conservative game. This, you guys know the drill. You guys have seen it before. And throughout the game, I was like going back and forth between like I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Had Iowa lost this game to Penn State, I was going to come on here and officially give my remarks on the fact that I'm not saying Kirk Ferentz needs to be done, because I wouldn't be willing to say that, but that Iowa will never be the 10-win team, the 11, top 15 type program until Kirk Ferentz is done. That will likely not happen. I still tend to think that because of what we saw today, a lot of what we saw today, it's as Kirk Ferentz gets older, he becomes more entrenched into kind of who he is as a head coach. Now, there were some plays here or there that were optimistic. Iowa was playing opportunistically, and they did try and get after it. For example, the 66-yard field goal attempt. I do think that was Iowa putting faith into their kicker and, trying to score some points before half. I was okay with it. I was okay with it. It backfired in the worst way possible. Um, I think a lot of that has to do with Drew Stevens, probably the blocking scheme that Iowa had. Maybe the snap wasn't as quick as it needed to be. Um, kicking field goals and just kicking in general is an interesting art because not only do you have to be accurate, you also have to be able to get it up over the linemen that are in front of you. And it's an art because just because you're able to get it high doesn't mean you're able to get it far. And if you're, kicking a 66-yard field goal, you're probably going to have to drive it more so than get it over. So, but in a situation like that, it's like, well, just at the very least, make sure it gets over. Like, you don't have to have it be the most chipper of chip shots, but you got to make sure it gets over. So who knows where the blame totally lies on that. Um, but man, I mean that was rough. But yeah, so that's kind of where my emotions were at throughout the course of the game. I at this point doing this, I am just so tired of seeing these fans that kind of have this like righteous approach to fandom. Like, and I've talked about it so many times now, and inevitably there's a new batch that comes around, and there's something that's said that is, to them, overtly negative. Really what they just mean is something they disagree with. And it's like, listen, guys, this is why Wisconsin finds themselves in the situation they find themselves in. Like, it is absolutely acceptable to be, you know, critical when it's deserved, and positive when it's deserved. Really, what's needed is just to be honest. Like, what's wrong with just being honest? There is nothing wrong with that. And I see time and time again, like there's the two extremes. There's the fans that are just always negative, no matter what. And then you have the fans that are kind of like this, righteous. I'm going to support Iowa no matter what, no matter the dumb stuff that goes on, the things that could have been done better. I am going to give my support to Iowa. Look at me. I'm an amazing Iowa fan. Look at me. I don't say one negative thing about Iowa. It's like, come on, give me a break, okay? We're all adults here. Um, even Alabama in Nick Saban's heyday was not perfect, okay? Like there it is okay to critique, and anybody who thinks otherwise, good riddance. Like, I'm okay with that. Now, let's turn our attention officially to the game. This is again going to give my honest approach to this. Um, sorry guys. And we're going to take a look at the stats. Let's start with the good. Um, Gronowski did have classic Gronowski style. There's the good, and then there's also the bad. It's like a perfect blend of it. He has the early interception, but then he really saved Iowa's offense by being able to run and have the IQ that he did have in taking off throughout this game. And that was nice to see. I mean, he picked up some bigger plays. Obviously, he is not, the most elite runner in the world, but he runs with purpose. He's got a good, strong presence when he runs, and that kind of like 10 to 15 yards is his where he makes his hay. Like, and he is fast enough and quick enough to shoot through the hole if it's there. But is he going to be a guy that is fast enough to outrun everybody on the defense? Not quite. So that was good to see, obviously. Let's look at the player stats here. Um, Kamari Moulton had a decent game. Iowa's offensive line, running the football was okay. Wasn't their best night, but again, Penn State does have talent, especially on their defense. He did have 99 yards, 5.8 yards a pop. Xavier Williams didn't really see him, only had one carry. Caden Weegan only had 3 carries, Nathan McNeil 2, like, a far cry from the game that we saw against Wisconsin. But again, if you're not able to string drives together and get, a few first downs in a row, it's kind of hard to build those stats up. And it just is. You know, I am surprised based on what we saw last week with McNeil and Xavier Williams that we didn't see them a little bit more. But, you know, Iowa kind of, I'm also okay with them kind of just deciding to, pretty much give the rock to Kamari Moulton. What we've seen in previous games is it's like 10 carries here, 8 carries here for this guy, 5 carries or, 5 to 8 carries here for another guy, split between 3, 4 guys. I thought Iowa's defense made plays here or there, but and they weren't, this wasn't the worst game that they've played in the world, but it was a far cry from their best. I mean, they got absolutely gashed by the running back for Penn State. The dude finished with 145 yards. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen a running back be able to run all over Iowa's defense like that. I mean, maybe, if I think back to it, a Wisconsin running back, a Melvin Gordon or, one of those guys was able to really just have their way with it, or maybe a game against Michigan or Ohio State where it's just so out of reach that it just kind of builds and builds and builds. By the way, guys, Jackson Smolik is from the state of Iowa. He was a late bloomer, and 247 Sports, I believe, actually considered him a 4-star quarterback coming out of high school. I remember thinking, like, if I was Iowa, and they actually did like the talent that he had, like, I would still, even if I had a quarterback, I would still try and land him. But obviously Iowa's recruiting. He was at 87. This was the class of 2023. Like I said, a kind of a late get. Um, but always interesting to see him. It's always interesting to see the rare few in-state Iowa kids that go anywhere not named Iowa. But Xavier Wampa, I think, probably had one of his better days. That was a bright spot, better games of his career. He got the interception, which was big. Um, Iowa was pretty good in the pass game. Again, it was against a backup quarterback, but again, this game, guys, there wasn't resounding good. Like, probably the best resounding good was Mark Gronowski on the ground. Maybe Kamari Moulton. Outside of that, there was like good and bad, good and bad. Okay, bad. It's like back and forth. Um, so let's talk about the bad. Drew Stevens continues to have an up and down season. I have said this before. I'm not going to harp on it anymore. I'll just be brief with it. I thought he would be a lot better. He's obviously not a terrible kicker, but he's also not elite like I expected. He most of the time he's good, and he does have a big leg. But I've said it before. To be elite, you have your accuracy has to be paired with leg strength, and you have to be able to be money, just as much money from 20 to 45 yards as you are 45 yards and beyond. um and I think this year he's really struggled in that like 40 to 50 yard range. um I know it's kind of hard, and this is a good thing. He broke the record for most field goals made in an Iowa career, but at the same time, he's been Iowa's starting kicker for 4 years. Now, it's still a hell of a achievement in its own right, but contextually speaking, maybe it's not as amazing as it would appear. But he has, for the most part, been a solid kicker throughout Iowa's career. I'm merely saying that in his fourth year, I expected him to be elite, one of the best kickers in the country. And so far this year, that has not been the case. I mean, he's already missed more field goals, or it's either more or tied with the amount that he missed last year. Um, Pass game. I feel like a broken record. Again, the pass game broken. I mean, in some ways it has improved. Contextually speaking, in small increments, it has improved. The system has improved marginally from the Brian Ferentz era, but it is not far and away better than what we have seen before when Brian Ferentz was there. And if you think it is, you're just lying to yourself. I mean, the status quo is for Iowa's passing attack to have oftentimes below 100 yards passing. Okay. Oftentimes, even on their best day, they're lucky to have over 150. I don't think Iowa has had over 200 yards passing this entire season. And that's crazy if you couple it with the strength of the run game, the strength of Iowa's pass protection. They're crowding the box. Iowa's able to run the football and, alleviate some pressure. Can you imagine how much Iowa's offense would struggle if the run game wasn't there? And so I am concerned for next year when all these solid offensive linemen graduate and maybe Iowa's offensive line takes a step back. I am slightly concerned. The running back talent should be pretty solid, and the offensive line should still be okay at the very least, but I don't think it'll be what it was this year. And it'll put more pressure on the passing attack. And I think also part of that is Gronowski probably is just not, just speaking for myself. I don't think he's as good of a passer as I thought he would be. He's not bad. He's got decent mechanics, but the decision making, he really would have benefited from being in a Power Five school program or Power Four program for more than just 1 year. I think he really could take some pretty big steps forward if that wasn't the case. But his saving grace is his ability to make plays and run and have that added element. And that's why I said for years with Spencer Petras, with some of these quarterbacks that were just statues back there, I always said, like, if if all they can do is pass the football and they're not even doing that, you may as well just put in a running quarterback out there. At least you'll get some running stuff. Like, they're already not getting it done through the air. So it's not like this guy who can run will do any worse. So that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, I'm happy Iowa won this game. And, yes, it's always nice to beat Penn State. Um, I guess for me, it's just I do want more. I want Iowa to take some of these steps forward. I know Penn State is a talented team, and hey, at least we're not going through what Wisconsin's going through, and you know. Not even competing out there on the field. At least our guys play hard. At least our coaches care and give a dang. But still, it, you know, in college football, like you look at the SEC and it's like they're always striving for more. Like if you're not top of the SEC and there's no hope of possibly getting there, it's like, okay, next coach. Because no, we are not, they are not, most of those programs are not perennially okay with being mid-tier. Because mid-tier gets kind of boring after a while. It's like mid-tier is just marginally better than terrible. But yes, I'm not saying that that's me. I am happy that Iowa still wins more games than they lose. But, it would be nice to take some steps forward and you know, possibly become every couple of years a top 25 caliber team. Um, so on and so on. So again, happy Iowa won the game and improved to 5-2. There was some good, um, but there was some bad. The Mark Gronowski interception to start the game. I mean, listen, guys. You guys know I'm right. Like Iowa in the first half, it was probably their worst half of football this season. They did everything they could to lose this game in the first half. And I'm like, I just kept thinking to myself, this is classic Iowa football. Classic Iowa football to come into a game that they really should win in every regard, but they make it more difficult on themselves and they just do bonehead things. But it was a good win. Good win. Um, Commenting on James Franklin really quickly, he did a ESPN game day thing. Um, and I don't know. I thought he seems like a good guy. Obviously, he's well respected in the Big Ten, or nationally, really. Um, I think it's funny how he talks a little bit. He really emphasizes every, bata syllable that he has when he talks. But people seem to like him. Players seem to enjoyed playing for him. Um, I don't know that it was a good look doing the ESPN game day. It kind of seemed like one big circle J, if you know what I'm saying. Um, and it's like, do you really think Nick Saban is not going to defend James Frank? Like coaches defend coaches. That's what they do. They will never not do that because the moment they do that, they are against themselves. The only coaches that sometimes don't do that are coaches that like are done. They're not going to be a coach anymore. They might have been a coach in the past, but that is out of question at this point. They are officially an announcer, color commentator, or whatever the case may be, analyst. Um, so, but it was just kind of this weird vibe of, like some drama TV show. Okay, take me through the firing. What were you eating when you got fired? Were you sipping coffee? Were you surprised when you were sipping on your coffee and you got fired? Just kind of weird. But the last thing I want to say is, again, my barometer this year, I wanted Iowa to see how they did against top 25 team. They did well against Indiana, and that was a good step in the right direction. And man, I wish they had won that game. Um, I am really looking forward to the next top 25 matchup. That I think that's really going to dictate a lot of things for me. For what it's worth, you do have to find ways to win ugly. Like you do have to find ways to win when things are not going in your favor, when you're not playing your best ball, and just have a gut wrenching win. And that's probably the biggest thing that I want to give credit to Iowa for tonight. Is it was a really tough game for them late at night at home, ton of pressure to pull it out in a game that they knew they should win. They were making every mistake possible to lose the game. I mean, maybe not every mistake, but quite a few mistakes to lose the game, and they found a way to dig deep and win the game. And so I give credit to that. That is a positive thing. And of course, Iowa moves to 5-2. Let's check out the rest of the Big Ten. It's been a while since I've done this. Um, I want to see the Big Ten scores. We can see where Iowa is at 7 games into the season. So Iowa is in that second tier. Look at Northwestern. I kind of expected this after seeing what their new coach, I think Brom, was able to do. in his first year with Fitzgerald gone. Obviously, Fitzgerald gone. They obviously lost talent, a lot of talent in his second year, but it's not surprising that a disciple of Fitzgerald coaches very similarly in a lot of ways and kind of has that, lunch pail, we're going to win playing tough, similar to Iowa sort of way. So I'm not surprised by that. They're 5-2. Oregon is 6-1. Um, there's a pretty big tie for the teams that are 3-1. We got one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 teams in the Big Ten that are 3-1. Minnesota is the other one. Look at that, Big Ten West representing Illinois 2-2, and so this is good. It obviously is not all bad, guys. There's I would still always rather Iowa um win this amount of games than the alternative of being in last place. Um, like what I love it. Like I've been watching Wisconsin's channels and Locked On Badgers and they all seem like good guys. But seeing their responses and kind of the pain they're going through, I guess I'm kind of just readying myself for the pain that inevitably I'll go through when Iowa is down for a couple of years. But Ohio State 34-0 over Wisconsin. Another goose egg for Wisconsin. Iowa actually beat Ohio State better by more than Ohio State did. Or Iowa beat Wisconsin by more than Ohio State did. Indiana beat Michigan State. Oregon dubbed through the trash can Rutgers. Um, Notre Dame got the 10 point victory over USC. Michigan defeated Washington. Northwestern defeated Purdue. Um, UCLA defeated Maryland. Of course, Iowa won, and then Minnesota defeated Nebraska, which is always lovely. Amid the Matt Rule um, rumors of him going to Penn State, I gave an answer in a short which job I think is better, but suffice it to say. By the way, guys, I don't. Purdue hasn't really played anybody, so I think their win loss is kind of deceiving, but yeah. As for who I think has which is the better job, I think it's very similar in most ways, the Nebraska job and Penn State job, but I would give it to Penn State only because they have a stronger recruiting territory. And I think currently the program is at a stronger height. So you're kind of taking the program over at a higher rung than if you were to take Nebraska over. But Nebraska's got a lot of money. They got a lot of fan support, which is always the foundation for a strong program. So in the end, doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect me as an Iowa Hawkeye fan, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on it. Man, that would be classic if Rule left Nebraska just as they were getting moving forward. How much of a massive backhand to Nebraska and reminder that they are no longer the program that they used to be. Then the coach leaving as soon as he started to get the program out of the basement dwellers of the Big Ten. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. The Iowa Hawkeyes defeat the Penn State Nittany Lions, albeit without starting quarterback Drew Aller and former head coach James Franklin, 25-24. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe, like I said. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy alone. Facts or feelings, because your feelings just matter. Love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Bye bye.